Hello everyone and welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by LawSikho. So today we have only one article to be discussed, which is from the Indian Express. The title of this article is Gated Globalization. So this article emphasizes about the importance of globalization in today's scenario, and also that in this time, how much careful should India as a nation be in order to secure its own interests at the global level as well. And secondly, we have the Newsflash column, which is LawSikho's own initiative for a prelims exam. Kindly pardon me for my voice. It's not, as I've been mentioning, that I've not been doing well with it. So please bear with it. So if in case you're also preparing for judicial services examination, you can definitely have a look at the lot of the courses, which is the judiciary test prep course from LawSikho. The link to this course is there in the description box below. And from the landing page, you can also download free study material for your own preparation. Also, we're excelling into various other courses like CLAT, All India Bar Exam, SEBI, etc. You can have a look at them too. With this, let's see that what is the multiple choice question from yesterday's discussion. Who has been named as captain of ICC's ODI and T20 international teams of the decade? So your options are Yuvraj Singh, Suresh Raina, Virat Kohli, or Mahendra Singh Dhoni. You can write down your answer in the comment section below. So this is the descriptive question for the day. What do you mean by globalization? Discuss its role in bringing the world together. So basically, amid the changing post-pandemic realities, India needs to be swift in identifying trustworthy partners. Now, as we know that lately, India has had a bit of changing relationship with its neighbors, firstly, and also with various other countries in the world. Like, for example, its relationship with Nepal had been changed in the recent past due to the map that had been brought by the Nepal Legislative Assembly. And with China, all of us know about it as well, when there is this huge standoff going on in the northeastern side of, as in the northern side of India, in the area of Ladakh and Galwan Valley. So in this scenario, it is really important for India that India identifies its own interests, and also it realizes that who are the trustworthy partners and which countries India should be moving forward with. With this, we need to understand that what is the changing aspect or dimensions of this multipolar world. Now, firstly, let's understand that why at all are we referring this world to be as multipolar? So there was not always a time wherein this world or the global setup was diverted or had interest into various nations. Rather, there were a few countries, and at times there has been only one country, as we know, the United States of America, that had drawn a unipolar world, wherein the entire center of power was only with one country, that was USA. Then we also have had bipolar world, which was between USA and the USSR, which was the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union. But now, when we consider the scenario for the day, there are a lot of countries that are competing for excellence at the global level, and they're sharing the power as well. Now, in this regard, we are discussing this to be as a multipolar world. Now, as we know that if we talk about the US-China rivalry for top position, it is now being contended by emerging powers such as UK, France, India, and Brazil as well. Now, as we know that US and China have been ever competing for becoming the world power or becoming the superpower of the world. And in that scenario, US and China have also been fighting this trade war since more than 2 years now. In this regard, we need to know that it is not only the United States of America and China that are actually fighting or contending for this huge power at the global level. Rather, UK, France, India, Brazil, and also other strong nations are also competing for the same position. So India is locked with confrontation with China in the Himalayas. Yes, we know about that. So that is why India has to be very careful while moving any step or taking any step in this direction, because as we know that India is hugely dependent for huge imports coming from China. And that is why it would not be really easy for India to cut down its ties with China in a very sudden manner. And that is why it is very desirable that India finds a very good substitute and another ally in this direction. Then US and its traditional allies are ramping up their presence in the Western Pacific. Now, as we know that recently the Indo-Pacific region and the Western Pacific region as well has also been in news, keeping in mind its strategic position and that the one who has control over the Pacific Ocean will be considered to have control on a huge part of Asian countries as well. And that is why United States and its traditional allies are also ramping up their presence in the Western Pacific area. So then the new great game is underway in the Indo-Pacific. And if we specifically talk about the Indo-Pacific region, as we know that which region is the Indo-Pacific region? the entire region from the Southeast Asia towards the western side, almost towards the western side of United States of America, is considered to be as the Indo-Pacific region. And as we know that the development of Quad or the quadrilateral that we are talking about has been very significant, and obviously it has been deterred by China and not really supported by it. And as we know that there are 4 members of the Quad, so they are India, Japan, Australia, and the United States. And these definitely are very significant powers in this region. And that is why this entire region is said to be under the control of these 4 nations. Then in the Middle East, that is in deep churn as Israel and Arabs discover the Abrahamic commonalities. Now, as we know that Israel, many nations in this world do not recognize Israel to be as an independent country. But now, due to the Abraham Accord, which has been signed recently, countries like other, Arab countries as well have recognized the presence of Israel, and definitely this will give a changing order to this nation as well. Europe is caught in a struggle to retain its values amidst diversity. As we know that Britain has recently, it's almost a year now that it has taken an exit from the European Union. And this definitely will bring a change in the entire trade and economy of the European Union as well. And then the technology flows and standard is split between China and everyone else. With 5G, the split will deepen. Now, as we know that we, being the nations moving towards technology, are definitely trying to delve deep into 5G technology as well. But in this scenario, there are not many companies and countries that can offer us this opportunity. And China being one of them, because as we know that Huawei is one company from China that offers great infrastructure that supports 5G technology. And that is why, if in case we do not try to develop any other substitute, then all the nations who are moving towards 5G technology will in some or the other way have to depend on China. And that is why it should be seen with very, with a careful insight as well. So with this, we understand that almost in all the parts of the world, we are seeing some kinds of significant changes going on. Now, these could be any economic changes, in the changes in terms of defense, population, demography, or any kind of changes. But yes, major changes are going on in this multipolar world. So these are a few things that you can consider in here, as we know that the 5G to transform lives. So we have moved from 2G, 3G, 4G. Now we are moving towards 5G. And this is the new great game which we are seeing, as these are the various, important areas of this entire region. And it has been influencing the entire Asian region as well. So now we know that even the influence of the India as a nation has also been increasing on the entire world and the global economy as well, because India's global diaspora, and as we know what we mean by diaspora, is the Indian nationals or the Indian population that actually stay and live in the other countries, but ultimately they pay taxes to the Indian government. So the Indian global diaspora is now over 30 million. And it means that 30 million of Indian population or the Indian nationals stay in different countries, and they send more than $80 billion back to the country, which is a very huge amount as a tax. So which actually is more than the foreign capital inflows as well, which India actually receives in a year. But even more than that is received as tax from the Indian diaspora living in the entire regions of the world. And then the increasing impacting policy in countries such as US, UK, and Australia. So the politicians, technocrats, innovators, influencers, billionaires, and cricket captains. Now, as we know that even recently, we know about the Kamala Harris, who has been a great name and figure in the United States of America's elections, presidential elections. So in that way also, Indian politicians, technocrats, innovators, Sundar Pichai, everybody knows his name and stuff. So we have been doing really great in increasing and impacting the world policy through our politicians, technocrats, innovators, etc., and even our influencers. So this also has been showing the presence of India at a huge level at the global, world. So what do we actually now we mean by the gated globalization framework? So this means that obviously now, as we know that after the 1991 economic reforms that we had in India, the very famously known LPG reforms, which were liberalization, privatization, and globalization reforms, India very significantly moved towards the step of globalization. But in the current scenario, it is also important to realize that even the domestic manufacturers and market holders are the ones who are to be kept safe. And it shall definitely be the duty of the government to make sure that these domestic producers and manufacturers also can stand at par with the global products. In such a scenario, it is very much desirable that India or the Indian government or the Indian foreign policies or the policies of globalization, they keep them in mind and we make policies in such direction only. Now, a very good example of this is the RCEP, which was the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, which which actually has become one of the largest economic setups or partnerships of the entire world, which actually has 10 of the ASEAN nations and 5 other nations. And actually, it had to be a total of 16 nations, wherein India had to be included in it. But due to the personal interest of the people, the government of India decided not to join RCEP in the current scenario because it was a threat to various, dairy products of the dairy manufacturers of the country, and there were various other, domestic reasons as well. So that is why India currently chose to stay out of the RCEP. And also, India needs enhanced capital flows from new partners as well. And we should be putting on some restrictions on the Chinese inflows, because as we know that India depends hugely on China, as approximately 14% of the entire input or the import comes from China. And for China, it's only a 3% coming from India. So there is this huge trade deficit which goes on, and this needs to be kept in mind. And that is why we need to find another a substitute, at least in the coming time, from to the Chinese inflows. And then there is no place for non-alignment, and it will test strength of strategic autonomy. Now, this has been a huge question when it comes to India, that China specifically claims that India has not been following the policy of non-aligned movement, and it has been showing a swift movement towards the interest of United States of America. But all in all, we should realize that India is a sovereign nation, and it should be completely independent to take its decision at the global level. Now, here are some other examples of gated globalization, like the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation. And India also is currently discussing a similar data protection law. As we know that currently we do not really have a very specific legislated law for data protection in India. With this, let's see what do we have for news and flash today. PM flags off India's first driverless train. So it has been inaugurated on the Delhi Metro Magenta line. It has been announced that by 2025, metro services will be expanded to 25 cities, as across India, it is currently only 18 cities. And also, National Common Mobility Card was also launched by Prime Minister Modi. Basically, it will give access to all modes of transport and will help do away the long queues for tokens. Now, as we know that the main hubs of the metro stations, like we have Chandni Chowk, we have Rajiv Chowk in Delhi. So there we have huge queues that are there for the tokens or buying the tickets. But then that problem would be completely solved by the National Common Mobility Card. So that was all for the day. We hope it was a good session for you. If in case you wish to download the PDF for today's slides, you can definitely join our Telegram group. The link to this group is available in the description box below. You can also visit our website, www.lawsikho.com, for any other information. Thank you so much.